I'm lying in a pool of my own blood in the back of a stranger's car, and the only thing I can think about is that I never got to tell my baby I'm sorry. The woman driving is screaming into her phone in a language I don't understand, and my vision is blurring, but I can feel my daughter kicking. She's still fighting. So I guess I have to fight too. Let me tell you how a 24-year-old barista from Ohio ended up bleeding out in the backseat of a mob queen's Mercedes, because this wasn't exactly in my life plan. 6 months ago, I thought I knew what love was. His name was Daniel. He had kind eyes and a smile that made me forget that my rent was 2 months overdue. He worked in finance, or so he said. Wore expensive suits, always smelled like cologne that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe, and when he looked at me, I felt like I mattered. You know that feeling when someone makes you feel seen for the first time in your life? Yeah, I was an idiot. 3 months into our relationship, I peed on a stick in the bathroom of the coffee shop where I worked, and those two pink lines appeared like they were mocking me. I remember standing there, shaking, thinking about how my manager was going to kill me for taking a 15-minute bathroom break. Priorities, right? When you grow up poor, you learn to worry about the small things because the big things are too terrifying to face. I told Daniel that night over dinner at a place I couldn't afford, but he insisted on. I watched his face change. It was like watching someone take off a mask in slow motion. He told me to get rid of it. Just like that. Get rid of it. Like my baby was a stain on his shirt. When I said no, when I told him I was keeping her, he stood up from that table, dropped $300 in cash like he was paying me off, and said, "I don't know you." Those were his last words to me. I don't know you. I sat there for 20 minutes after he left, staring at that money, crying so hard the waiter asked if I needed an ambulance. I should have taken that as a sign. If you're wondering how this gets worse, smash that subscribe button because this story goes places you won't believe. I found out 2 weeks later that Daniel wasn't in finance. Daniel was an accountant for the Corsetti family, one of the biggest crime syndicates on the East Coast. I found this out because 3 men in black suits showed up at my apartment at 2 a.m., dragged me out of bed, and told me that I was a liability. Apparently, Daniel had been skimming money and he'd disappeared. Vanished. And these men thought I knew where he went or where he'd hidden the money. I'm standing there in my pajamas with cartoon cats on them, 7 months pregnant, trying to explain to these gangsters that the man who got me pregnant ghosted me at an Olive Garden, and they're not buying it. They ransacked my apartment, tore apart my couch, emptied my drawers, broke my laptop looking for files that didn't exist. One of them, this guy with a scar across his neck, kept asking me where the ledger was. What ledger? I made $6 an hour plus tips. I didn't even balance my own checkbook. But they didn't believe me. They gave me 48 hours to produce either Daniel or $2 million. I had $347 in my bank account. I ran. I know, running makes you look guilty, but what was I supposed to do? I grabbed my go bag, the one my paranoid mother always told me to keep, and I left everything behind. My apartment, my job, the only life I'd ever known. I took a bus to Pittsburgh, paid cash, kept my head down. For 2 weeks, I worked under the table at a diner, sleeping in a women's shelter, trying to figure out my next move. My daughter kept kicking, reminding me that I couldn't just think about myself anymore. Every time I felt her move, I made a promise. I'm going to keep you safe. I'm going to give you a better life than this. Then last night, I saw them. The same men. Walking into the diner like they own the place. I don't know how they found me. Maybe someone recognized me, maybe they had people everywhere, but the moment our eyes met, I knew I was dead. I ran out the back door into the alley, and that's when the first shot fired. The bullet hit the brick wall next to my head, and I felt pieces of concrete spray across my face. I ran faster than I've ever run in my life, which is hard when you're 7 months pregnant and haven't eaten a real meal in days. Comment below if you've ever had to run for your life, because nothing prepares you for the sound of footsteps gaining on you in the dark. I made it 3 blocks before I felt the pain. Sharp, stabbing, radiating from my stomach through my entire body. I thought they'd shot me, but when I looked down, there was no blood. Not yet. It was the baby. Something was wrong. I stumbled, fell against a dumpster, and that's when I felt the wetness between my legs. My water had broken, or something had ruptured, I didn't know. But I was losing blood fast, and the pain was so intense I couldn't breathe. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. Then there were headlights. Bright, blinding, expensive headlights attached to a car that cost more than I'd make in 10 years. The car screeched to a stop, and I heard a woman's voice, sharp and commanding, yelling at someone. I couldn't make out the words. Everything was spinning. I felt hands on me, lifting me, and then I was in the back seat of that Mercedes, bleeding all over leather that probably cost more than my life. That's when I saw her face. She was beautiful in a terrifying way, like a knife that's been polished until it shines. Dark hair pulled back tight, eyes that looked like they'd seen things that would break most people, and she was on the phone screaming at someone named Marco about how she didn't care about the job. She needed a doctor now. I remember thinking, this woman is going to save me or kill me, and I'm too tired to care which. She turned to look at me, and for just a second, her face softened. "You're going to be okay," she said, and I don't know why, but I believed her. Maybe because I had no choice. Maybe because when you're dying, you'll believe anyone who tells you you're not. The car was flying through streets I didn't recognize, running red lights, and she was still on the phone, arguing with someone about meeting her at some location. I heard her say, "I don't care if he hates me, he's a surgeon and he's going to do this." Then she looked back at me again and asked my name. I tried to answer, but all that came out was a sob. She reached back and grabbed my hand, her grip strong and steady, and said, "Stay with me. Your baby needs you to stay with me." I held onto her hand like it was the only real thing in the world, and I felt my daughter kick again. Weaker this time. I started praying to a God I wasn't sure I believed in anymore. We pulled up to what looked like an abandoned warehouse, and she was out of the car in seconds, throwing open my door, scooping me up like I weighed nothing. I'm not a small woman, especially not pregnant, but she carried me like I was made of air. Inside, there were lights, medical equipment, and a man in scrubs who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. "This is what you left for?" the woman carrying me said to him, and there was so much pain in her voice that, even through my agony, I felt it. The man, the surgeon, looked at me, then at her, and something passed between them that I didn't understand. He cursed under his breath and pointed to a table. "Put her down. Now." Like and subscribe if you want to know whether my baby makes it, because what happens next changed everything. The next 3 hours are a blur of pain, lights, and voices. The surgeon, whose name I learned was Dr. Marcus Chin, worked on me with steady hands while the woman who saved me paced back and forth like a caged animal. I heard him telling her that the placenta had partially abrupt, that I was losing too much blood, that he needed to do an emergency C-section or we'd both die. I heard her ask him if he could save us both, and his silence was answer enough. Then I heard her say, "Save them both, Marcus. I don't care what you have to do. Save them both." I don't remember much after that except the sensation of floating, of my body not being my own, and then the sound of crying. Not my crying. My daughter's crying. That beautiful, angry, alive sound that meant she'd made it. I tried to open my eyes, but everything was so heavy. I heard Marcus say, "She's stable, but she needs a real hospital," and the woman said, "No hospitals. They'll find her." When I finally woke up, I was in a bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud, in a room that looked like it belonged in a mansion. My stomach was bandaged, my body ached everywhere, but I was alive. And then I heard it again. That crying. I turned my head, and there she was. My daughter. In a bassinet next to the bed, wrapped in a blanket that probably cost more than my car. She was perfect. Tiny and angry and absolutely perfect. The door opened and the woman walked in. She looked different in the daylight streaming through the windows. Tired. Human. She saw I was awake and something like relief crossed her face. "You're tougher than you look," she said, and I started crying. Not sad crying. The kind of crying that happens when you've been holding everything in for so long that you finally break. She stood there awkwardly for a moment, then sat down on the edge of the bed and handed me a tissue. "I'm Victoria, by the way. Since I saved your life, you should probably know my name." "I'm Emma," I managed to say through my tears. "Thank you doesn't seem like enough for what you did." Victoria looked at my daughter, and something shifted in her expression. What's her name? I haven't decided yet, I admitted. I was so focused on keeping her alive that I forgot to think about what to call her. Well, she's a fighter, Victoria said softly. She gets that from you. Over the next 2 weeks, I stayed in Victoria's home, which turned out to be a penthouse that overlooked the entire city. I learned that she was exactly what I suspected, the kind of woman who ran an empire built on things I probably didn't want to know about. But I also learned that she made terrible coffee, that she talked to my daughter in a soft voice I'm pretty sure no one else ever heard, and that she had nightmares that made her wake up screaming at 3 a.m. I know because I had nightmares too, and one night we both ended up in the kitchen at the same time, both pretending we were fine. She made us tea, terrible tea because apparently she couldn't make any hot beverage correctly, and we sat there in silence until she said, "I had a baby once. A long time ago. I didn't get to keep her." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just reached across the table and took her hand the way she'd taken mine in the car. We sat like that for a long time, two broken women holding onto each other in the dark. If you're not subscribed yet, what are you even doing? Hit that button because this story is about to get complicated. During those weeks, Victoria's people discovered that the men hunting me weren't just Daniel's former employers. They were the Sorrentino family, rivals of Victoria's organization, and they'd somehow gotten it in their heads that I was connected to her. That my baby was hers. That by saving me, Victoria had claimed us as family. Which meant we were targets. Not just from the Sorrentinos, but from anyone who wanted to hurt Victoria. She told me this while I was feeding my daughter, who I'd finally named Hope because it seemed appropriate. Her face was carefully neutral, but I could see the guilt there. "By saving you, I made you a target," she said. "I'm sorry. I didn't think about the consequences." "You saved our lives," I told her. "I'll take being a target over being dead." But Victoria had already made up her mind. She had passports made for me and Hope, fake ones with new identities. She'd arranged for us to go to New Zealand, of all places, where she had contacts who could keep us safe. She'd set up a bank account with enough money that I'd never have to worry again. She was sending us away. I should have been grateful. I was grateful. But I was also heartbroken in a way I didn't understand yet. "When did you decide this?" I asked her. "The moment I realized that keeping you here would get you killed," she said, not meeting my eyes. "You leave tomorrow night." That last day was strange. Victoria was distant, cold even, back to being the ice queen I'd first met in that car. But I caught her holding Hope when she thought I wasn't looking, whispering things I couldn't hear. I walked in on her once, and she quickly handed my daughter back like she'd been caught doing something wrong. "I'm sorry," she said. "I shouldn't get attached." "Why not?" I asked, and she looked at me with eyes that held so much pain. "Because everyone I get attached to ends up hurt." That night, I packed the bags Victoria had provided, designer luggage filled with clothes that actually fit, things for Hope, documents for our new life. Victoria was in her office handling business or avoiding me, I wasn't sure which. I put Hope down for a nap and went to find her. She was standing by the window, looking out at the city like she owned it, which I guess she kind of did. "I'm not good at goodbyes," she said without turning around. "Then let's not say goodbye," I told her. "Let's say see you later." She turned to look at me, and I saw tears in her eyes. The first tears I'd ever seen from her. "Emma, you can't come back here. You understand that, right? This is it." "I know," I said, even though it felt like swallowing glass. "But I needed to tell you something before I go. You saved my life and Hope's life, and I know you think that's just what happened. But for 2 weeks, you've been waking up to check on her at night. You've been teaching me how to protect myself. You've been making us breakfast, terrible breakfast, because you can't cook, and you've been more of a family to us than anyone ever has been. Comment below if you've ever found family in unexpected places, because I'm about to tell you how this woman became mine." Victoria wiped her eyes quickly, like she was embarrassed. "I'm not good at this," she said. "Family. I don't know how to do it without destroying it." "You're doing it right now," I told her. "And I don't want to leave, but I understand why I have to. Just promise me you'll take care of yourself. Because Hope asks about you." "Well, she's a baby so she doesn't actually ask, but she looks for you. And so do I. Something broke in Victoria's expression. I can't, she started, but I cut her off. You can, I said. Whatever you're afraid of, you can. Because you already have. You chose us over your job. You chose saving a stranger over your empire. You're braver than you think. The car came at midnight. Victoria had arranged for a private driver to take us to a private airfield where we'd board a plane to our new life. She walked us down to the car, holding Hope one last time, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Be extraordinary, she whispered to my daughter. Don't let the world make you small. Then she looked at me, and for a moment I thought she might say something, might ask us to stay, but instead she just hugged me tight and said, "Thank you for reminding me that I'm still human." I got in the car with Hope, watching Victoria get smaller in the rear window, and I cried the whole way to the airport. Hope slept through it, peaceful and unaware that we were leaving the only safe place we'd known. New Zealand was beautiful. Victoria's contact, a kind woman named Sarah who asked no questions, helped us settle into a small house by the ocean. I got a job at a local cafe, started building a normal life, the kind of life I'd always dreamed about. Hope was thriving, growing, learning to smile. I should have been happy. But every night I thought about Victoria. I wondered if she was okay, if her enemies had retaliated for the night she'd abandoned her operation. I wondered if she thought about us. I'd catch myself telling Hope stories about the fierce woman who saved us, even though she was too young to understand. 3 months passed like that, me going through the motions of normal while feeling like I'd left part of myself back in that penthouse. Then one morning, there was a package at my door. No return address, just my fake name written in elegant handwriting. Inside was a stuffed bear, expensive and soft, and a note. For Hope. Stay safe. V. I held that note and cried, and that's when I realized what I'd been trying not to admit. I missed her. Not just missed her like you miss a friend, but missed her like you miss home. Like you miss a piece of yourself. Make sure you're subscribed, because what I did next was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever done. I called the only number I had, a burner phone Victoria had given me for emergencies. It rang 4 times and I almost hung up, but then I heard her voice. Emma? Is everything okay? Are you safe? We're fine, I said quickly. Hope is fine. We're safe. There was a pause. Then why are you calling? Did something happen? I got your package, I said. The bear. She loves it. Another pause. Good. I'm glad. Victoria, I said, my heart pounding. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. What is it? Do you miss us? The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then, quietly, every day. Then why did you send us away? Because keeping you would have been selfish, she said, her voice breaking. Because you deserve a life that isn't looking over your shoulder. Because Hope deserves to grow up normal. What if we don't want normal? I asked. What if we want you? Emma, you don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking, I said, surprised by my own certainty. I'm asking if there's a chance. If you've dealt with the threat. If there's a world where we could come home. There's always a threat, she said. That's the life I live. But is this specific threat gone? Another long pause. Yes, she finally said. The Sorrentinos won't be a problem anymore. I made sure of that. How? You don't want to know. She was probably right. Okay, I said. Then I'm coming back. Emma, no. Victoria, yes, I said firmly. Listen to me. I've spent 3 months trying to build a normal life, and you know what I realized? Normal isn't what I want. I want Hope to know the woman who saved her life. I want her to grow up knowing that family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up. And you showed up. I can't promise I won't mess this up, Victoria said, and I could hear the fear in her voice. Nobody can promise that, I told her. But we can try. If you want to. I want to, she whispered. God, Emma, I want to so much it scares me. Then don't be scared, I said, smiling through my tears. We're coming home. 2 weeks later, I was back on a plane, this time heading towards something instead of running away. Sarah had helped me pack, told me I was either very brave or very crazy, possibly both. Hope was 6 months old now, alert and curious, and when we landed and I saw Victoria waiting at the private terminal, Hope reached for her immediately, like she remembered. Victoria took her with shaking hands, holding her close, and when she looked at me, her eyes were full. "Welcome home," she said. "Home," I repeated, and it felt right. The first few weeks were an adjustment. Victoria had to learn how to make space for people in her life, had to learn that love doesn't make you weak. I had to learn that strength comes in different forms, that the woman who ran a criminal empire with an iron fist was the same woman who sang off-key lullabies to my daughter at 2 a.m. We had to learn each other, slowly, carefully. Like two people who'd been alone too long. It started with small things. Victoria teaching me self-defense in her private gym, her hands correcting my stance, lingering a little longer than necessary. Me making dinner, actual edible dinner, and watching her face light up like I'd given her something precious. Hope's first word being V, and the way Victoria cried when she heard it. Then one night, about 2 months after we'd returned, I found Victoria on the balcony, staring at the city. "I put Hope to bed," I told her, joining her at the railing. "Did she go down easy?" Victoria asked. "Once I sang her the song you always sing," I said. "The one in Italian." "My mother used to sing that to me," Victoria said softly. "Before everything went wrong." I took her hand, threading my fingers through hers. "Do you want to talk about it?" She looked at our joined hands like she was seeing something impossible. "I told you I had a daughter once," she said. "What I didn't tell you is that I was young, too young, and the father was a man my parents chose for me. An alliance marriage. When I got pregnant, I thought maybe it would mean something, that he'd be different. But men like that don't change. He beat me so badly when I was 8 months pregnant that I went into early labor. She didn't make it." "Victoria," I breathed, squeezing her hand. "I killed him," she said matter-of-factly. 3 days after the funeral. "And I built this empire on his grave. I promised myself I'd never let anyone have that power over me again. I'd never love anything enough to be destroyed when it was taken away. But then I saved you," I said, understanding. "But then I saved you," she agreed. "And I started feeling things I swore I never would again. Hope looks like her sometimes. My daughter. Same eyes. And it terrifies me." I turned to face her fully. "Victoria, look at me." She did, reluctantly. "You're not going to lose us," I said firmly. "We're not going anywhere. And what you feel, this fear, it means you're alive. It means you're human. Don't run from it." "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "Neither do I admitted. But we'll figure it out together." She looked at me for a long moment, and then she kissed me. Soft and tentative, like she was afraid I'd disappear. I kissed her back, pulling her closer, and I felt her relax into us. When we pulled apart, she was smiling, really smiling, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. If you've made it this far without subscribing, do it now because you need to hear how this ends. The next 6 months were the happiest of my life. Victoria stepped back from some of the more dangerous aspects of her business, delegating to people she trusted, making space for a different kind of life. We became a family, the 3 of us, in ways that had nothing to do with blood and everything to do with choice. Hope took her first steps in Victoria's office while she was on a conference call, and Victoria stopped mid-sentence to cheer. I started taking classes online, finishing the degree I'd abandoned years ago, and Victoria would quiz me while I studied, genuinely interested in my psychology coursework. We had our challenges. Victoria's world didn't just disappear because she wanted it to. There were still threats, still people who tested her, still moments when I'd see the ruthless queen emerge and remember that the woman I loved was dangerous. But she never brought that darkness home to us. She protected us from it, and slowly, she let us protect her too. One night, almost a year after I'd first called her from New Zealand, Victoria came home early from a meeting looking shaken. I was giving Hope a bath, and she sat on the bathroom floor and just watched us. Hope was splashing and laughing, and I was making ridiculous faces, and Victoria had tears running down her face. "What's wrong?" I asked, concerned. "Nothing's wrong," she said, wiping her eyes. "I just realized something. I'm happy. Actually, genuinely happy. I didn't think that was possible for someone like me." "Someone like you?" I asked, pausing to look at her. "Someone who's done the things I've done. Someone with blood on her hands. I dried Hope off and wrapped her in a towel, then handed her to Victoria. Those hands also saved our lives, I reminded her. Those hands hold our daughter gently. Those hands hold mine. You're not just one thing, Victoria. You're allowed to be complex. You're allowed to be happy. She held Hope close, pressing her face into our daughter's damp hair. Our daughter. When had I started thinking of Hope as ours? I do love you both, Victoria said quietly. I know I don't say it enough, but I do. You're my family. The only real family I've ever had. We love you too, I said, sitting beside her, the three of us huddled together on the bathroom floor. And we're not going anywhere. That night, after we put Hope to bed, Victoria asked me to marry her. There was no ring, no elaborate proposal. Just the two of us in the kitchen where we'd first really talked, and her looking at me with vulnerable eyes asking if I'd want to make this official. I said yes before she even finished the question. We got married quietly 3 months later, just us and Hope and Marcus, who'd become an unlikely friend. No big ceremony, no announcement, just a simple exchange of vows in Victoria's study with Hope as our witness. I promised to love her through the darkness and the light. She promised to choose us every day, no matter what. And we both meant it. Leave a comment telling me what you think happens next, because I want you to know that endings can be happy. It's been 2 years since that night in the alley. Hope is 3 now, brilliant and fearless, and so loved it radiates from her. She calls me Mama and Victoria Mom, and she has no idea that we're not a traditional family. To her, this is just how love looks. Victoria has changed. She's still powerful, still commands respect, but she's softer now. She smiles more. She takes Sundays off to take Hope to the park. She's even started going to therapy, working through decades of trauma with the same determination she brings to everything else. Last week, she told me she's thinking about getting out completely, transitioning her legitimate businesses to someone else, and just being done with the life that's defined her for so long. I told her I'd support whatever she decided. Because that's what love is. It's not fixing each other, it's standing beside each other while you both figure out how to fix yourselves. This morning, I woke up to Hope climbing into bed between us, chattering about a dream she had about dragons. Victoria pulled us both close, kissed the top of Hope's head, then mine, and said, "This is everything." And she was right. This messy, complicated, beautiful life we'd built together was everything. I'm Emma, and I'm no longer running. I found home in the last place I expected, in the arms of a woman who saved my life and then let me save hers. In a daughter who will grow up knowing she's loved fiercely by 2 women who chose each other, chose her, chose this family. If my story moved you, hit that like button. If you believe in second chances and found families and love that doesn't quit, subscribe because I have more stories to tell. And if you're out there right now, running from something, scared and alone, I want you to know that sometimes the people who save us are the ones who need saving too. Sometimes family finds you when you least expect it. Sometimes broken people come together and make something whole. 3 years ago, I was dying in an alley, convinced my story was over. Today, I'm alive, loved, and exactly where I'm supposed to be. If that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. Thanks for watching, and remember, your story isn't over until you get your happy ending. Keep fighting for it.